carbon dioxide, oxygen, hydrogen, water. So all these are substances that we are regularly hearing in our everyday lives. Now in this video, we are going to see which of these substances are actually called elements and which of them actually classify as molecules or compounds. First, let us look about elements. So an element is a pure substance that is only made up of one type of atom. So elements in chemistry can be defined as pure substances that are only made up of one type of atom. So these substances cannot be further broken down into simpler substances by any chemical methods. Now hydrogen, which is shown by the atomic symbol H, is the smallest and simplest element that we know. It has an atomic number of 1. Now we have a total of 118 elements currently in the periodic table. There are a total of 118 elements up to date. Now each element is actually defined by the total number of protons present in it. Each element is defined by the total number of protons in it. Now hydrogen, which is the simplest element, has only one proton in its nucleus. If we take the case of carbon, whose atomic number is 6, so carbon will have 6 protons in its nucleus. Atoms is another important term. Atoms can be defined as the smallest units of elements that retain the element properties. Atoms are the smallest units of elements that retain the element properties. So in the earlier example, hydrogen is an atom. Whatever we have shown in the earlier slide, hydrogen is an atom. Some other examples include helium, sodium, potassium, copper, lead. All these are examples of atoms. They are examples of atoms. They are the smallest units of elements that retain the element properties and are defined by the total number of protons present in it. Moving on, let's go to the next term, which is molecule. Okay, so a molecule should contain 2 or more atoms that are held together by very strong bonds called covalent bonds. A molecule should compulsorily have 2 or more different kinds of atoms. Okay, so nitrogen gas, oxygen gas. So these two are gases which are usually present in the air. Okay, so both of them are actually existing as molecules. Because nitrogen gas has 2 atoms of nitrogen, whereas oxygen gas has 2 atoms of oxygen. It's also important to remember that nitrogen and oxygen are 2 of the most abundant gases in the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, now in these 2 examples, we can see that the molecule is made up of similar type of atoms. Let's take the case of water, carbon dioxide, or even calcium oxide, which is CaO. Now all these three are also examples of molecules, the only difference being they are made up of two different atoms. They are made up of two different atoms. Water has hydrogen and oxygen, carbon dioxide has carbon and oxygen, whereas calcium oxide contains calcium and oxygen. So a molecule should necessarily have two or more atoms that could be similar or they could be different also. Next, we will look at compounds. Now, similar to molecules, compounds should contain two or more different types of elements that are joined together by chemical bonds. Compounds are substances containing two or more elements that are joined together by chemical bonds. Now, water, carbon dioxide, calcium oxide, what we discussed in the earlier example, also classify as compounds because they are made up of two different elements. Okay. And it's also important to remember that the elements that are found in compounds always exist in the same proportions. Now, wherever we take water is always known to contain two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. Okay. Similarly, carbon dioxide has one atom of carbon and two atoms of oxygen In a compound, the elements always exist in the same proportions. Okay. So hydrochloric acid, which is HCl, nitric acid, which is designated HNO3, sulfuric acid, some of the acids that we routinely hear are also examples of compounds because they are made up of two or more different atoms. Let's look at the case of table salt, which is sodium chloride. Table salt is sodium chloride, which is also made up of two different atoms, which are sodium and chlorine, and they also exist in a fixed proportion. Wherever we take salt, the molecular formula would be the same, having one atom of sodium and one atom of chlorine. However, sodium chloride cannot be considered as a compound because it is made up of two different ions. Okay. Now all the substances that contain ionic bonds are not classified as compounds because they are actually formed between two oppositely charged ions. They are formed between two oppositely charged ions and not atoms. Okay. So sodium chloride, in spite of having two different atoms, cannot be considered as a compound.